Today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Thursday, October 22nd, 2015. And here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, well, over there in Asia, Shanghai moved up. Rest was pretty flat. And then during the day in Europe, things were quiet. They were waiting for the announcement. European markets pared some losses to trade flat after opening lower Thursday, ahead of a monetary policy decision by the European Central Bank. Investors, gamblers, appear to be pausing ahead of an ECB Governing Council meeting. The meeting, which is being held in Malta, is expected to focus on whether the bank needs to increase its trillion-euro bond buying program. You ready? Designed to fuel inflation and growth. You know what that is.
Oh, come on now. That ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit.
This inflation thing is horse shit. When is it a great thing to increase inflation? But they keep doing it and no one challenges them. But, of course, here's what happened. More stimulus. And the markets reversed. Oh, they were pairing losses. DAX, CAC, up over 2%. Over here in the States, Dow, up almost 2%. On the news of more heroin for the investors or gamblers. More heroin for the addicts. So, boosted everything up. Oil was up. Oil laid a little flat. So again, this is just a gambling game. Has nothing to do with reality. Threat to Eurozone prompts QE rethink. This, of course, is before the announcement from the Financial Times. Eurozone central bankers are expected to discuss options for beefing up the $1.1 trillion quantitative easing program. So there you got it. Ponzi lives. And what does it do? What Ponzi's supposed to do. That's right. More mergers and acquisitions. Western Digital will buy SanDisk for $19 billion. Look, we'll loan you the money for nothing. Do the deal. Yeah, get back to the gambling table. You borrow for nothing. Tech sector enjoys deal frenzy. You ready? Last seen at peak of late 1990s dot-com bubble. A fresh wave of consolidation. Isn't consolidation a wonderful word for multinationals grabbing everything and keeping it for themselves so you can work for them for nothing? Swept across the tech industry is 3 multi-billion-dollar acquisition deals totaling $3.4 billion were revealed yesterday. A deal frenzy last seen in the sector during the peak of the dot-com bubble. Again, these deals that are going to reshape the chip industry and everywhere else, when will it blow apart? As long as they keep putting that heroin in there, it's going to keep going. It has to keep going. So, gold was just about flat. A little story here in the Wall Street Journal. Regulators caution on auto financing. A top financial regulator warned of risks in the fast-expanding auto lending sector, raising the prospect of fresh regulations. They'll get nothing. In an area that has been a bright spot for banks. Hey, you don't got a job? You have a lousy credit rating? You got a lot of debt? Don't worry about it. Sign over here. I got a car for you. Yeah, you should have the best. Yeah, I think you should take these options as well. I've been writing about this for years. This is another housing bubble. And they're letting them get away with it because they is them. The banks run the show. It's bankism. It's fascism. It's America. It's much of the world. Yeah. Here's your numbers. According to a brand new numbers that were just released from the Social Security Administration, 51% of all workers in the United States make less than $30,000 a year. 38% of all American workers made less than $20,000. 51% of all American workers made less than 30. 62% of all American workers made less than 40. 71% of American workers made less than $500,000 last year. Now, according to the federal government, who always shafts it to you anytime they can, check this number out. A family of 4, all right? Excuse me. I must be corrected. The federal poverty rate for a family of 5 people, is $28,410. Now figure it out. If you have 40% of all American workers not even bringing in $20K, the poverty level's a lot worse. One person could barely live on $28,000. On to some other news. Remember the president said we were going to save them Yazidis, there'd be no combat troops? Well, guess what, folks? U.S. reports first killed in action in fight against Islamic State. This is from Air Force Times. A U.S. service member died during a commando raid in Iraq on Thursday. A team of dozens of U.S. Special Forces troops joined Kurdish fighters in a pre-dawn raid in Iraq. For months, the Pentagon has maintained that the roughly 3,500 U.S. troops deployed in Iraq did not engage in direct combat. And that they're limited to training, advising, and assisting Iraqi forces from secure military installations. In other words, they don't go anywhere. I guess somebody's lying. And here's the liar-in-chief himself. This is a year ago, August.
I know that many of you are rightly concerned about any American military action in Iraq, even limited strikes like these. I understand that. I ran for this office in part to end our war in Iraq and welcome our troops home, and that's what we've done. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not allow the United States to be dragged into fighting another war in Iraq. And so even as we support Iraqis as they take the fight to these terrorists, American combat troops will not be returning to fight in Iraq.
So there you have it. The con man. I'm con-mander. You are, man. The con-mander. How come nobody calls these people out? How come? It's a big lie about these advisors. That was the line they used in Vietnam. And, of course, today the other news is Hillary's out there, testifying against what was happening in Benghazi. The arrogance of her. The arrogance. She goes on to say, America must lead in a dangerous world. And listen to her say this.
America must lead in a dangerous world.
She goes on. Retreat from the world is not an option. America cannot shrink from our responsibility to lead. We have learned the hard way when America is absent from unstable places, there are consequences. Unstable places? How about an unstable place in your brain? Show me your victories, Hitlery. Oh, you got Gaddafi, I forgot. We came, we saw, he died. Unstable? And the arrogance of her voice. And who is she talking to? Not talking to me. She's talking to a bunch of little people over there that listen to her like she knows what she's talking about. Break these levels down of moronic speech. Retreat from the world is not an option? No. Back in Iraq, huh? That's an option. Back in Afghanistan, it's not an option? Who made this up? I'll tell you who made it up. The wife of another sick son of a bitch who used to bomb Iraq all the time. You forgot them no-fly zones? Yeah, not only were there no flies, the kids were dying like flies, over 500,000 of them, because of Bill Clinton's sanctions. You remember Madeleine Albright? Not that Albright. She was on CBS, asked by Leslie Stahl, was the death of 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5 worth the sanctions? And Madeleine says, yes. Yeah. This is the sickness. Yeah, Bill Clinton, the guy with the lovely Yugoslav war, started on lies just like the rest of them. And here she is telling us what we should do, and the little people buy it. Your next president of the United States, the way things stand now, Madonna me, unless there's a big change. So, other news, according to the Yemen Post, over 6,000 civilians have been killed by that war because, hey, we're part of it. Not we, the sickos in Washington, the psychopaths. Yeah, because retreat from the world is not an option. And we can't shrink from our responsibility to lead or supply Saudi Arabia with the arms to slaughter people. So, and according to the World Health Organization, 27,000 people have been seriously injured. Qatar says it could intervene militarily in Syria, but prefers a political solution. Qatar? You know who they are? Yeah. Al Jazeera. Al Capone. Yep. Anything that protects the Syrian people from Syria, from partition, we will not spare any effort to carry out with our Saudi and Turkish brothers, no matter what this is. This is according to this, who is he over here? Foreign Minister. If a military intervention will protect the Syrian people from the brutality of the regime, we will do it. Isn't that nice? Invade another country because you don't like them. The Sunni, Saudi, the Sunni Shia thing just keeps going. So, you see the craziness. So what happens? Told you about United States supporting our friends, the Saudis, the beheaders in chief. Congress notified a planned sale of 4 ships. Obama working to assure Gulf allies, our allies. These are Hillary Clinton's friends. After Iran nuclear deal, the Pentagon is notifying Congress of a planned sale to Saudi Arabia of as many as 4 literal, or however they say this word, combat ships for $11.25 billion. Yeah, it was a racket. Good for the military-industrial complex. Isn't that great? Meantime, Saudi Arabia is spending all this dough, killing people. IMF pressures Riyadh over ballooning fiscal deficit. The International Monetary Fund has called for more details of Saudi Arabia's plans to deal with its ballooning fiscal deficit, warning that the biggest oil producer might deplete its financial reserves within 5 years unless it builds an effort to balance its budget. Can't balance its budget. It needs oil at $100 a barrel. It's at around 50. So you can see where this is going. It's madness. And to keep the madness going, the White House set to sell new fighter jets to Pakistan in bid to bolster partnership for murder. A partnership for murder. And you have Hillary Clinton talking to us as though they know what they're talking about. So let's everybody get this straight. Send me in your comments. There are no victories. America's interference